There we go. All right, say that again. Because now we're live on all of them.
Now we're live. We're going to talk about what to track to lose weight.
There we go. Okay.
You want to introduce anybody?
Oh, yeah. So I'm Megan. This is my husband, Seth. And together we help people figure out why they feel stuck when they're trying to lose weight and what they can do so it doesn't happen again. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. It's like very broad.
It's a small nutshell. Like, what's a small nut that has a shell?
This pistachio?
It's a pistachio. That's the pistachio of what we do. Not like the walnut or the...
Pecan. Pecan's like the biggest one.
Is it really?
I feel like it is.
Huh.
What's your favorite nut? All right, we're gonna try to stay on topic today.
Yes. What should I track to lose weight? So I'm going to be reading over a blog, but it's not just going to be boring reading. I mean, hopefully.
Oh, you're a pretty good reader.
Yeah, but we're gonna actually like dig into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we'll talk about some other stuff that's not just in the blog. And if you would still rather just read it, then let her know, and she can send you the link so that you can just read it.
For sure. And as always, when we're doing this, if you have questions, feel free to comment live. If you have questions and you're watching the recording, just comment and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah. All right.
All right, let's do it.
So tracking things for weight loss is something that can be tedious after you do it for a few weeks or even really just a couple days sometimes.
Yeah.
The task of opening up an app like myfitnesspal is a really popular one, doing that multiple times a day, trying to find the exact food you ate, how many calories it was, that's something that's hard enough to do. Just the idea of like, okay, I'm having pasta. What kind of pasta? Okay, cups of serving. Is it cooked? Is it dry?
Yeah.
What is it?
How many ounces in a cup? Just
yeah,
it's
a nightmare. That one's a little bit easier, isn't it?
That one is, but not for dried goods.
And it's just annoying. The point is like, trying to do all that and then also remembering to log your workouts, how much water you have, setting the right goals on those apps, tracking the grams of protein, all of that. It's not something that for the very vast majority of people is a realistic lifelong habit.
Yeah, we've got other stuff going on that taking the time out to do this is a big commitment.
Yeah, so what do you really need to track if you want to lose weight? So what we're going to do is we're going to answer that by telling you what we do with our clients and really ourselves too.
Yeah, we practice what we preach.
Yeah, and the first thing that we could do, just if we wanted to, is tell you about all the amazing success that we have with our clients. And they have success, and we can point you to that if you want. But what's actually going to be more helpful is if you understand the type of people that we work with. Mm-hmm. Because if you have drastically different goals or motivations than what the type of people that we work with do, then this whole thing may be a waste of your time. So let's start there. You want to know what to track based on your situation, not someone else who lives a totally different lifestyle. So starting a good way to let you know who we work with and what the people we're recommending this type of tracking for is by starting with the people we don't work with. Yeah. So we don't work with fitness enthusiasts who have goals like, I want to take my deadlift from 305 pounds up to 345 pounds in the next 6 months. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not what we do. That's not the person we're talking to. We don't work with someone who wants a quick fix with goals like, I want to lose 30 pounds in a month because I'm going on vacation at the beach.
And I don't care about anything else. That's all I want.
Yeah. And not only is that type of goal unhealthy, even if it's achieved, the results are always temporary. Mm. So that's not what we do either. Yep. We also don't work with young athletes who are already in great shape and just want some fun, new diet or exercise challenge to do in their abundance of free time. Because the truth is they can hop on pretty much any diet or exercise program and be fine. Mm. The type of person we work with is kind of the opposite of all that. Yeah. So if you're someone who has trouble staying committed or consistent with diet and exercise, if you know you don't have a ton of time to commit to it because you have other priorities in life, other responsibilities, kids, job, just a social life, anything like that, and yet at the same time, you are ready to take this seriously because you want to learn more realistic habits that will actually make a long-term difference, both for you and passing down habits to your kids that they will have and take with them so that they don't struggle with the same things that we all struggle with, then you're going to want to pay attention to what we're recommending for tracking, because this is for someone like you then.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 ways we have our clients track their progress. And that's really the first thing we're going to talk about. So when it comes to tracking, there are 3 different categories that I've kind of narrowed it down to. The first one is tracking progress. And there are three ways that we do that. The first one is weight.
Yeah.
So we're talking about weight loss.
That's the common one.
Yes.
That seems obvious.
And how can you know you're losing weight if you don't know how much you weigh? Pretty simple. And to be honest, it's not impossible. Like, you can lose weight, but it's way easier if you're willing to step on a scale every now and then. Mm-hmm. And we have most of our clients do this every day. Some opt to do it a little bit less, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But if you have anxiety over the scale, weighing yourself every day can actually be a good way to conquer that fear and not let it control you. Because as you practice healthier habits and you're patient with the ups and the downs that do happen with your weight, you're going to learn to be able to see past that to the bigger picture, like how your clothes may start to fit differently, even if your weight isn't dropping as quickly as you hoped. Yeah. So I know a lot of people struggle with that, but I would encourage you to give it a shot and look past that and look for the longer trend of weight loss that happens over the course of months as opposed to just the days. Yeah. So that's one. The other thing we track for progress are measurements. So it's possible to lose fat while also gaining a little bit of muscle, especially if your goal is to tone up, in which case the scale may not accurately reflect the progress that you're making. Because do I need to explain why that happens, or is that pretty intuitive?
I think you should explain it.
So you can be losing fat, which would theoretically bring your weight down, but if you're also gaining some muscle, that may bring your weight up a little bit. We're not talking about like gaining tons of muscle, but what it can do is it can make it feel like you might actually be making really good progress, but what you see with just the scale may be less than what you think, and it can be discouraging. Yeah. So that's why we have our clients measure certain parts of their body on a somewhat regular basis, typically monthly to every 2 to 3 months, somewhere in there. And specifically, we have them measure their upper arm, their waist at the belly button, and their hips at the widest part, and then their thigh.
Yep. We don't do like neck measurements and I don't know whatever else there could be. Just try to keep it real simple.
Yeah, and that's not that there's anything magical about any of those specific areas. We just try to keep it simple, and you're gonna see changes there that are going to typically be what you want. Yeah. If you want to do more, then there's no reason not to necessarily, other than it's just more to keep track of. But the important thing is to be consistent in the way you measure each spot, so that each time you do it, you make sure, okay, how did I do this? Where did I do this? That's why I say, like, waist at the belly button, that's an easy landmark for going, okay, I'm going to hit this same exact spot every time. And that's going to give you the most accurate look then at your progress.
I always forget on the thigh, like, what part of my thigh did I do this on? Yeah. That's the hardest one for me.
That is a tough one. And here's the thing is that none of these are perfect, but that's why it's helpful to not just track your weight or not just track your measurements. Yeah. Or number 3, pictures.
Okay.
So that's what the third one is, and that one gives you just another perspective too. So even the measurements can be slightly misleading, especially if you are gaining a little bit of muscle before you lose fat in certain areas, because you're going to lose fat on your body wherever it comes off. Yeah. That may mean
no control over that.
That may mean that your measurements may actually even get slightly bigger in certain areas first, because you're gaining muscle there and not losing fat in that area. And that happens a little bit different for everybody in different places. I would say most common is probably guys' thighs tend to get bigger and women tend to get bigger at the hips, I think, if I'm remembering right. It's off the top of my head. Yeah. But I don't even pay attention to that, because the point is it's going to be different for you. Yeah. So taking pictures, and we do this roughly whenever someone does measurements. So whether that's once a month or once every 2 to 3 months, that gives you that different perspective that the weight and the measurements miss. So the important thing is you don't want to expect quick changes with this. The pictures might not show a significant difference for several months. So don't get frustrated and don't give up. What you might even want to do is show your pictures to someone who you trust, who can give you a little bit more of an honest review, because most of us tend to be hard on ourselves and focus on our flaws. There are definitely times when clients send us pictures and they're like, I don't know if I really see anything, and it's like, no, there's definitely changes there. I mean, it's not significant necessarily,
but yeah, you can
there's
see just like subtle differences, and they're usually hyper focused on one area, and they're like, I'm not seeing this, and I'm like, yeah, but look at this part and this part, and like,
and when we
that's
point
amazing.
it out, then they go, oh yeah, okay.
We're pretty hard on ourselves in general.
Yes, people are. Yes,
people. We as people.
But overall, with each of these 3 ways of tracking progress, don't expect to be happy with all 3 of them at the same time. As long as you're seeing some kind of change with at least one of them, that's really what matters. So it's not uncommon for people to rely on only one form of progress, especially just weight, and then to give up too early, and when you very well may be making really great headway in other areas. So you don't want to make that mistake. So that's how we track progress, is with those 3 things. With our clients and for ourselves. The second thing that we track now is food. So everyone's process for how to be successful with nutrition and weight loss will be a little bit different. Not everyone follows this exact outline that I'm about to share with you here, but the following 3 steps that I'm going to give you now are a good way to think about it, even if your exact approach varies a little bit. So the first step that we typically do with our clients with tracking food, tracking nutrition, is literally just the food. We start most of our clients with at least a few days of getting a snapshot of how they normally eat without changing anything. So meals, drinks, snacks, bites.
Just starting to be aware of what.
Do they know what bites are?
Like when you're cooking and you taste something. Yeah. Or you finish your kids'
grab something off
chicken nuggets or that kind of thing, little bites of that.
Just everything. We have them track everything. And no matter how well you think that you already know what you eat, and I'm speaking of personal experience here for myself and for all of our clients, no matter how well you think you know, unless you've tracked it, you are almost certainly wrong.
It's just human nature. You can't possibly remember all that stuff. You got enough going on.
And if the only thing you were to do is become more mindful and just track everything that you eat, you would be amazed at how quickly you could make simple changes and get results. I mean, it might only take you so far, but it could be more significant than what you think.
Yeah, often, when our clients first do this, I'd say more often than not, they already have an idea when they look at what they've written down. They're like, I didn't realize I wasn't getting enough protein. Oh my goodness, I don't eat vegetables, and they're like, this is what I want to work on, just by bringing that awareness into the piece.
And now, as far as tracking this, it doesn't even matter how you do it. You can take pictures on your phone of everything that you eat. You can use an app in your phone. You can literally write it in a notebook. Whatever is easiest for you, go with that. But if you're looking for a place to start with tracking your nutrition, we always would recommend starting there. So, and then once you have a good handle on what you're eating, you need to have a way to track how much you eat. So that's number 2 with tracking food, is the quantity. And specifically talking about calories, protein, carbs, fat, and veggies. So those 5 things. Now, the good news is that 99% of our clients don't track literal calories or grams of any of those things. Instead, they use something called the hand guide. And what the hand guide does is it manages all that stuff, all the calories, all the grams. It manages it automatically. It's built in to the process, so you don't even have to worry about it.
It's even built in to account for error.
Yeah. It's super convenient and simple, and you don't have to get an app out every time you eat for the rest of your life. You just need to gauge how much food you're putting on your plate based on the size of your hand. So for the sake of time, I wasn't going to go into more detail with that unless you wanted to.
You know what? I've got a link ready that I can just send you how the hand guide works if you want to know more, or you can message me. I am more than happy to teach it to you, or send you a link so you can understand it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's not something that we keep hidden as a secret for how to do. It's readily available to help you incorporate it.
Just an alternate to having to count calories, which we love.
Yeah. Now you can take a more difficult route and literally track every gram and calorie. There's nothing wrong with that, but the hand guide it's just as accurate and it's just as effective, and it takes less time and energy, especially once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've done it for a while, it's pretty much, you barely have to think about it.
Yeah, once you've gotten the hang of it, it's usually some people are more difficult than others, but it takes like 2 or 3 weeks for even them to like really feel like they got a rhythm going, and that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to lose weight with something that's really quick to learn and easy to follow?
Exactly. So then the third step of tracking food is the quality. And so what you can do, and usually we incorporate this after people are already comfortable with step 2 of tracking the quantity, the amounts.
And seeing good progress.
Yeah. Some people take it on sooner, but typically this is the third step. You're comfortable with that. Now you want to assess the quality of all the foods that you're eating. So for our clients, there are no foods that are off limits. We don't say you can't have this.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to enjoy what you love.
Yeah.
But
what one person likes is going to be completely different than what we like and what their family enjoys. And so just giving you like a list of foods that you don't enjoy or things that you've never eaten before is not really going to set you up for something that's you want to keep doing.
Yep. So we tell our clients, you can eat whatever you want. Now, the thing is, if you want to see a faster rate of weight loss, a good way to achieve that is to make sure that the majority of your meals are high quality. Sometimes this is super obvious. So like just the difference between eating chips or fruit, which both are carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're tracking carbs, you could say I had a handful of chips or I had a handful of fruit. It's both the same as far as a portion of carbs, but one is obviously a better choice. It has more
nutritious. It's going to fill you up more, and in the end, it's slightly less calories. So that's another way to make progress.
So that's just a super obvious example. Sometimes it's far less obvious, like the difference between coconut oil and extra virgin olive oil, which those are both fats. And it's not that one is healthier than the other, but extra virgin olive oil is going to give you a different type of fat that you're less likely to get from all the rest of your food.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah. Topic of fats, saturated and mono and poly and all that. Unsaturated.
In a nutshell, back to the nuts. So a lot of our Western diet and our processed foods are jam-packed with saturated fats already. And so the concept is to add the foods that have the unsaturated fats. And so coconut oil is packed full of saturated fat. But there's other oils that have the other kinds of oils to help balance out that mixture of fats in your diet. So the idea is to add more of those into your life because you're probably already getting plenty of saturated fat in your diet.
Most likely. That's the type of thing that we can easily help our clients with, of looking at the overall picture of everything they're eating and going, they're having coconut oil, that's not bad, there's nothing wrong with that. Right. But are you having any other types of higher quality fats that are giving you the different types that may be something to change, may not, but that's what we're talking about tracking then, is the quality of those different types of foods. Mm-hmm. And small differences like that add up over time.
Yeah.
So, and since we're talking about weight loss, the easiest guidance to give you without actually like talking to you personally, which we're happy to do too, or taking you on as a client, is to look for foods that have less calories, more nutrients, and are more filling. Those are going to be the higher quality foods. Doesn't mean you can't have the other ones, but you want more of your diet to be this stuff. Or even easier still is just what you can literally track is just how many of the foods are you eating that are super processed, like foods in boxes or eating out, versus minimally processed. So like single ingredient foods, home cooked meals, those types of things.
So when you track, what you're eating, you can take note of how much of it is home cooked and how much of it is highly processed, and start to like, maybe I could swap out this one meal or breakfast or thing with something that's a little more home cooked, and start to flip the ratio there.
Yeah. So for the most part, those are the 3 things that we track with our clients as far as nutrition. There are different ways to do it, and there are certainly other strategies that we can bring into play. but that gives you kind of a good idea of where you can go with what to keep track of what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
The next category of things that we track are movement. So, and there are two separate components to this, which you don't want to confuse the difference. The first one is exercise. So let's just start there, I guess. So tracking for exercise. So, and specifically for our clients, strength training. Strength training is the most efficient and effective type of exercise that you can do for weight loss. It should be your priority. We have every client focus on that as their main form of exercise. Most of them are only doing it, that means 2 times a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But it still needs to be, if you're going to exercise, start there. Doesn't mean you can't do other stuff, but most of our clients don't want to anyway. So, so start there. And as far as tracking, the way we do it is, now I create a specific exercise program for our clients every month. But the things that they track are the same things that I would recommend that you track no matter where you find your workouts. And it really all comes down to the basics of just what are the exact exercises you're doing from week to week.
Mm-hmm.
And then the number of sets and reps and how much weight you use on each exercise. Yeah. Very, very simple. But what a lot of people do is they make the mistake of just kind of doing a random workout every time they go into the gym and not really tracking any of those things, which then makes it impossible to create progress. Yeah. And that progress with your workouts is super important for weight loss because it's what signals to your body to adapt and change the way that you want it to. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, if you're at all interested in also getting stronger or having more energy, tracking your workouts becomes all the more important. Yeah. So, but there's nothing more than that you necessarily have to keep track of.
If you've never strength trained, that can feel like a big barrier, but it's worth learning to focus and keep your workouts not just sporadic and random, so you can really maximize. You're doing it anyway, so why not make it worth your effort?
That's the thing. You can go in and just do a random workout and not track it, but there's no guarantee you're going to get results that way. Mm-hmm. So why waste your time? Then the second component of movement that we track is daily activity. So what that means is you also want to have an idea of how active you are when you aren't working out. Yeah.
Really, I'm going to just interrupt, Jerry. Maybe this is the next thing. This is like super different than exercise.
That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. And if you have something else you want to add to it, please do.
We just like to really make the distinction between exercise and daily activity, because someone will go and do some yard work and they're like, yeah, I already exercised today. And really, like, that's actually just a part of your regular movement. And you need to be intentional about that as much as you do regular exercise. Is that basically what you just wrote?
Kind of. That's a good add-on to what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But yeah, part of the reason why it's important to recognize that difference is because exercise is something that you can only do so much of before you literally start to wear your body down. Yeah. Especially since none of us here are professional athletes who literally base our lives around fitness. Like, that's a different story. If that's your life and you can base everything around that and have the recovery that's needed with that and perfect nutrition and everything, then yeah, you can do more. But for the rest of us, just kind of normal people,
you can't hire a personal chef and a nutritionist.
You can't do exercise all the time. And so whereas with being active during the day, that's something that you can do as much as what you want. And being active, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Being active during the day in simple ways means like going for walks, playing with your kids, doing yard work like what you mentioned, shoveling snow. We had a client send us a picture of shoveling snow. That was how he spent some of his time being active. There are limitless ways to spend more of your time throughout the day on your feet rather than on the couch. And this is where most people don't even think to track or focus. Yeah. They think they just need to work out more. And really, this is going to make as big of a difference for weight loss, if not even more so sometimes than what the literal exercise would.
This is the key piece as you age and get older and you lose more muscle mass and you're going through menopause. This is one of the key pieces that are missing.
Along with strength training, because you can, if you are just being active and not doing strength training, like what we mentioned, and tracking that progress, then you're still going to lose muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So both of these really are equally important, but equally important in separate ways. Like you can't combine them and say, I'm just exercising or I'm just being active. You have to have them both. So those are...
I'd say both, not even for weight loss, just for like maintaining your level of energy as you age.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of what we talk about is weight loss, but like this is also like, if you want to not be sitting on the couch wishing you could get up and play with your kid while they're playing ball, like this is one of the things you can do now to make sure that you can stay active and keep that energy up. Yeah,
that's a good point, just for overall health and quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
One of the easiest things, by the way, that you can track with this is your step count. Oh, yeah. Some people don't like doing that. You don't have to, but it can be just an easy, like, I'm keeping track of how many steps I do. And we've talked about this before. I can give you more numbers on this, but typically you don't necessarily have to go for real high.
No.
I won't go into that because that's a totally different topic, but that's something you can track.
If you want to know more, you can let us know.
Yeah. If tracking your step count doesn't interest you, another option is to just track the number of times you get up and move per day, or the total amount of time that you spend doing some type of intentional movement, like a walk or a bike ride or whatever, or a combination of both. So you don't have to do a step count necessarily. It can be the time and the number of times. Any way you track it is going to be fine as long as you're paying attention to it and being intentional about it. So that's literally everything that we have our clients track.
Yeah.
I mean, with exceptions here and there, obviously.
Yeah, depending on their goals.
Those are the basics. And we don't even necessarily have them track all of that all at once. In fact, no one really starts out with that.
No, that's too much.
Which I'll go into more on that in a little bit. But there are also things that I wanted to list that I thought might be helpful to include the things that we intentionally don't have our clients track. Mm-hmm. So I've got a few of those. One is calories burned, which we did a whole other video and blog on this recently, but tracking how many calories you burn each day or just even in a given workout, not only is it unnecessary, it's generally a pretty bad idea. So the bottom line is that tracking calories burned it's going to be inaccurate. It's going to affect your progress negatively because you're going to be relying on that inaccurate information. Mm-hmm. And if you're already tracking your food and your movement and your progress, those basic things that we just talked about, the calories burned aspect is going to just work itself out without you having to account for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that would be even if it were accurate. Which
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, yes, it is. Thank you. I did good.
I have to live with him.
You get to. The second thing that we don't track are literal calories and grams. And I know I already touched on this a little bit, but I want to add some clarity. So losing weight does come down to energy balance. If you're eating too many calories, it is impossible to lose weight. So you do have to have an accurate way to control for that.
Yeah.
And the hand guide that we talked about earlier is a really great tool, but even if you choose not to use that, it doesn't necessarily mean the only other option is to count calories. You may be more content just working on specific behaviors, like finding new ways to improve the quality of your meals. Mm-hmm. And doing those things over time will help without having to actually literally count the calories. So, and if you're smart about how you do it and stay consistent with it, those changes will cause you to eat less calories anyway, and less grams of sugar, and more of the things you need like protein, fiber, and a whole bunch of other nutrients. And it's all just by tracking behaviors rather than the specific numbers. A third thing that we don't track are very specific sleep metrics.
This might make people mad.
I'm sure that it will make somebody somewhere mad. And maybe they'll tell us how wrong we are. But now I am a huge fan of making sure you get enough sleep. And most people need 7 to 9 hours. And making sure that sleep is high quality sleep.
For sure.
So
not
don't
just
think
a fan, you might be like a Nazi. So am I.
I value sleep very heavily. And this is important. But having said that, those are pretty easy things to gauge without actually tracking the specific things that you may see in your Fitbit or Apple Watch or any type of device like that. The things that are in there tend to not be very accurate. So as long as you're getting enough hours and you aren't tired all day long, it's not something that I would recommend spending time tracking.
Yeah.
If you do think that sleep is an issue for you, and it definitely can be for some people, and it can definitely affect weight loss, like that it is a factor, a major factor, then it may be worth your time to come up with a plan and track your behaviors around your sleep and around your bedtime routine specifically. And you can even use some of those metrics on your device as a guide.
A reminder even.
Just don't live or die by the numbers, because it's not super accurate, but it can be helpful to just, as you're creating behaviors around your bedtime routine, you can kind of look at that and go and just use that to keep you motivated and keep going.
Yeah.
That said, it's just not something that we track regularly. If it's a specific issue, there are things you can track with it, but don't sit there and just go, oh, I guess I didn't get good sleep last night, so I'm going to be tired today, because that's not how that works.
Kind of obvious.
Okay, so a fourth thing that we do not track is body fat percentage. So if it were easy to get an accurate measurement of body fat percentage, then this wouldn't be a bad thing to track. Unfortunately, not only is it not easy, it's pretty close to impossible. So at-home scales that are supposed to track that, or even special machines at gyms and health stores.
Or even apps.
I mean, they can be inaccurate to the point of being comical or tragic, depending upon which side of the error you fall on. Skin fold measurements are another way to do it. That's the thing where they take the calipers and they pinch your fat, which that's super fun for anybody to go through.
Really uncomfortable.
People love that. They can be more accurate, but only if the person who's using them really knows what they're doing, and I wouldn't trust anybody with it. Very, very few people that I would trust to do that with.
Well, here's the thing, and who really cares about, I mean, at least our audience, who really cares about your body fat percentage? I mean,
about the number.
Like you just want to feel better. You want to look good, be comfortable, look in the mirror, be proud of yourself, and be able to get up and go play with your kids. Lose a little weight, so when you go to the doctor again, they're like, yeah, good job. Like, they're not looking at your body fat percentage. You're not looking at your body fat percentage, so why track it?
Yeah, and that's kind of my last point too, is because there are other ways to do it, like calculations you can do based on measurements and all this stuff. But that's kind of the point, is that it doesn't matter what the number is, and it's not going to give you any edge on tracking your progress with what you can get with just tracking your weight measurements and pictures, like we talked about already. You're not going to have any better results because you supposedly know what number your body fat percentage is at. So we just stay away from it. And which brings me to number 5, which is anything else. We don't track anything else. Like I said, with exceptions here and there, there's so much that you can track now. I have intentionally left some things off of this list. I'm sure there are a bunch I didn't even think of. If you have questions about a specific one, please ask. I can give you my opinion, or Megan can give you my opinion or hers.
Stay out of it.
No, ask her, because it's on your video.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. She'll let you know if there's anything that you're like, well, what about this? Then we're happy to answer. But the point is, the reason we don't bother with things beyond just those basics we already talked about is because for our clients, the type of person that we talked about at the beginning, tracking anything else almost always just amounts to extra work for little to no extra benefit.
Yeah.
So, all right, so keep this in mind. When you break it down, everything we just talked about, there are only 3 things that you need to track: progress, food, and movement. And yes, there are multiple things within each of those categories. But if you try to track every single one of those things at the same time on a daily basis, you're going to be less likely to have success with any of it, especially if you're doing this on your own. So with coaching, we can help you take on more at once, because we'll be the ones who are kind of looking at all that data, and we'll be the ones to make decisions and tell you, okay, let's emphasize this more than that, and to get you the best results. So it can be a little bit easier with a coach. But even with a coach, there are times when the best thing you can do is just pick one thing to work on and forget everything else. Definitely. Intentionally say, I'm not going to work on anything else except for that one thing. If you're doing it on your own, it only becomes more important to narrow that focus, because it's just going to be too hard, and you're going to give up, and you're not going to have any luck with it. So if you want help on knowing where to start with what you should track first, what maybe your one narrow focus should be, talk to Megan.
Message me.
Yeah, let her know. We've got resources for you. So
We'll point you in the right direction, kind of help you get out of your own head.
and then figure out what a good starting point is, because a lot of times that can be the hardest part, is going, well, I'll work on something, but how do I know it's going to help?
Totally.
That's all I got.
Got it. All right. Well, that was great. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask.